The anime starts with our main character, Tomokui Kanata, being brutally attacked by a wild lady who seems to derive pleasure from it. Despite the pain, Kanata remains silent, his lifeless eyes fixated on the moon above. The lady calls out his name, but Kanata is indifferent, as he knows he is already dead. Upon awakening, Kanata finds himself face to face with an old goblin, bewildered by his own existence and the presence of the green creature. The old goblin decides to name them Goburou and Goburou respectively. Kanata, now Goburou, expresses disappointment at the lack of effort in the naming process. The old goblin then stuffs a bug into Goburou's mouth, prompting a groggy response. The next day, Goburou finds himself surrounded by other goblins, realizing he too has become one of them. The realization of his transformation into a helpless goblin overwhelms him, leading to tears. As days pass, Goburou notices rapid growth in his body, realizing that goblins mature much faster than expected. Determined to survive, he embraces his new life with optimism. On the fourth day, the old goblin gives them some bugs and informs everyone that this will be the last food they'll get from him. He will no longer provide food. Goburou and the goblins enjoy their last free meal. Stepping outside, Goburou takes in the sight of one sun shining in a blue sky, yet it's filled with strange, unsettling birds, and there are unfamiliar plants all around, signaling that this world is unlike anything he's known. Goburou steps out too and also marvel at the sights around them, both admitting it's their first time seeing the outside world. Taking a moment, Goburou introduces himself and teaches Goburou his name, forming a bond between them. Their goal, to hunt for food. As they explore, they stumble upon a horned rabbit grazing peacefully. With Goburou's help, Goburou positions himself strategically, ready to strike. As the rabbit approaches, Goburou swiftly brings it down with a well-aimed blow from his stick. However, their joy is short-lived when Goburou moves to devour the catch alone. Frustrated, Goburou insists they share, resorting to gentle persuasion with his stick to enforce the lesson of cooperation. Goburou, not far behind, marvels at the unfamiliar world outside, expressing his awe at its newness. Sharing the same sentiment, on the sixth day, Goburou and Goburou met Goblin. She seemed impressed by their hunting skills and ability to eat horned rabbits. Goblin shared a sad story about someone who was killed by a creature named Goburou. It was quite surprising. Goburou wanted some praise too, but Goblin told him he was just average. The leader asked Goblin if she wanted to join their hunt the next day. She happily agreed and hugged Goburou. However, they couldn't go hunting when the time came because it was raining. So, they postponed the hunt until the following day. Goburou used this indoor time to check what supplies they had. He also tried to make a new weapon. Goburou found some ore and began refining it with a rock. While he worked, he couldn't help but think about the human captives nearby and their unfortunate situation. He tried to push those thoughts aside, and Goburou helped by starting a conversation and telling him he seemed motivated. The seasoned goblin observes that Goburou might level up faster than anticipated upon a closer look. This is the first time the young one hears about this leveling idea. Goburou educates him about the gestures used to display one's level. Goburou taps his head, and the system notifies him that Goburou is at level 86. The elder reveals that upon reaching level 100, one can evolve into a more advanced being. This achievement is quite rare, as only 1 out of every dozen goblins manages to accomplish it. Goburou notes mentally that goblins age rapidly, as Goburou, despite being in his 22nd, appears to be on his last legs. The old goblin informs Goburou that the goblins in their prime will return soon. When they do, the newborns will witness what an evolved hobgoblin looks like. However, Goburou is more interested in seeing what kind of prey they will bring this time. It has been 8 days since Goburou's reincarnation. Goburou joins them on their hunt and hits a monster snake with a slingshot. This provides an opportunity for the boss to take it down. They employ their new tactics to hunt a variety of prey. Goburou acts as support, while Goburou takes the mid-range position, and Goburou leads the charge with his formidable power. They successfully skin a snake they hunted, allowing them to savor their catch. Goburou becomes emotional, expressing her dissatisfaction with only eating fruits like a herbivore. The leader of the group takes a bite of the snake and gains the ability to produce venom, along with resistance to it and other skills. He recognizes the snake as high level due to the new abilities he acquired. Goburou prevents Goburou from consuming the poisonous head, relying on his resistance. Despite the challenges, Goburou is determined to survive in his second life. On the 9th and 10th days, the trio prepares their gear and embarks on their usual hunting trip. They encounter bats in a cave, initially overwhelming them, but Goburou uses his evil eye to stun them, making it easier to defeat them. During the feast, Goburou gains new abilities like echolocation and vamphilia, impressing their peers who wish for such nutritious food. On the 12th night, jealous goblins attempt to ambush Goburou while he sleeps, but his search ability alerts him, enabling him to fend off the attackers. Unfortunately, one of them succumbs to the venom used by Goburou. Witnessing this, the others back down. Out of frustration, Goburou begins choking one of the defeated goblins, prompting the boss to intervene. On the 13th day, the trio executes a well-coordinated attack, successfully defeating their first orc. After consuming its meat, Goburou gains the ability to speak the orc language, along with other traits. Feeling generous, he suggests sharing some meat with the others in the cave, realizing the importance of unity after the recent attack. Initially hesitant, the other goblins eventually accept the offer, thanking Goburou for his kindness. Reflecting on his changed behavior, Goburou realizes that his perspective on helping others has evolved since his previous life. That night, as he sleeps, the system notifies him that he has fulfilled special conditions and offers him the chance to evolve into a hobgoblin, which he eagerly accepts. Awakening on the 14th morning, Goburou notices his increased size and appearance resembling his previous form. Goburou also notices his transformation, and Goburou praises their enhanced appearance. They are surprised by their rapid progress, achieving a rank up in less than a month since their birth, an unprecedented feat. Goburou wants to gauge his newfound strength, so he proposes a sparring match with Goburou. They venture to a secluded part of the forest where they engage in a fierce brawl. Despite Goburou's impressive power, Goburou, the Goblin Chad, emerges victorious. Their duel is interrupted when Goburou senses impending danger. Aware that Goburou was observing them, Goburou calls her forth and instructs her to wield the crossbow they crafted earlier. Meanwhile, a pack of wolves begins hunting horned rabbits, driving them into goblin territory. After feasting on the rabbits, the wolves spot an orc and target him as their next prey. The trio, observing from a distance, sees an opportunity to test their evolved strength against the wolves. Goburou signals Goburou to initiate the attack by targeting the wolf pack's leader with a well-aimed shot from her crossbow. As chaos erupts, Goburou and Goburou engage the wolves head-on, swiftly overpowering them. The absence of their leader leaves the black wolves disorganized and vulnerable. Despite a fierce struggle, Goburou and Goburou emerge victorious, standing triumphantly over the defeated wolves. Although the wolf leader attempts to rise again, Goburou delivers the final blow, ensuring their victory. Goburou wastes no time sinking his teeth into the meat, immediately gaining new abilities: Wild Hunt, Hides Armor, and Order. These skills grant him military leadership prowess. Together with Goburou and Goburou, they present their impressive catch to the rest of the goblin horde, who are duly impressed. Goburou, however, seeks no gratitude. He merely expects them to match their hunting efforts. Some of the horde members express concern about meeting such a high quota. Worried, they plead with Goburou not to punish them. Recognizing their lack of combat skills, Goburou decides to teach them how to defend themselves and even offers to instruct them in weapon crafting. Encouraging them to stand up as comrades, Goburou earns their admiration and loyalty. They hail him as a good leader, chanting his name in unison. Whether it's due to the order ability he acquired or some other influence, Goburou feels a sense of clarity about his path forward to grow stronger, lead his comrades, and achieve his goals. With a sly grin, he contemplates his secret plans. By the 17th day, progress is evident, but there's still much to learn. Returning to the cave, Goburou is pleased to find that Goburou has also evolved into a hobgoblin. She flashes him a cute smile. On the 17th day, Old Man Goburou is awakened from his sleep and given the sad news of the death of all the human female captives. Goburou explains that they died by their own hands after drinking a potion that caused them to fall into an eternal sleep. The two goblins give the humans a respectful memorial. After a few days, Gob is criticized for lagging behind during a training session by the leader of her generation. While they run, Goburou reflects on how he gained abilities by consuming many monsters. However, they notice a group of unfamiliar people carrying weapons approaching in the distance. Goburou prepares his swords and moves towards them, but Goburou stops him to inform that the approaching group are actually raiders targeting their settlement. Goburou's generation. The raiders return with a successful raid, pleasing Old Man Goburou, who begins to commend their leader, Hopkin. The raiders not only bring back goods but also 5 human females. The elderly goblin becomes excited at their lively appearance, commenting on how convenient it is that they have arrived to replace the deceased captives. It's known that goblin DNA is dominant, so regardless of the species they mate with, the offspring will always be goblins. Although Goburou understands the desire to reproduce, he disagrees with the methods they use, and his disapproval is evident on his face. He approaches the leader with a stern expression and asks if he can take charge of the humans. However, the alpha male is offended by this question and grabs Goburou in a confrontational manner. This interaction creates tension in the camp, leading both the old and new generations to draw their weapons, preparing for conflict. Old Man Goburou finds himself in the middle, feeling confused as he witnesses the unfolding situation. Two female goblins intervene to defuse the situation and prevent a civil war. Since Goburou is unfamiliar with them, he inquires about their identities. The old man introduces the one with purple hair as Hubsato, and the other as Hops the mage. Hubsato suggests that the leaders from each generation engage in a duel to settle the matter. The winner will have the authority to make decisions for the village. Both parties agree to the terms, and as they prepare for the fight, Hopkin agrees to the duel without weapons, aiming to teach young Goburou a lesson. The scene abruptly shifts to Hopkin, who is bound and battered, resembling someone who has endured a brutal fight. Old Man Gobji is astonished by the young goblin's skill, surprised that he had been concealing such power all along. Since the webs he used to immobilize his opponent were generated from his own body, he is declared the winner. This skill was acquired from the demon spider, not Spider-Man, to clarify. Even the two female goblins from the previous generation are impressed by Goburou's abilities. The new leader addresses the old generation, inquiring if they have any objections to him assuming the role of chief. However, given their former leader's decisive defeat, they have no option but to acquiesce. Later, the new chief converses with the human captives, assuring them that he has instructed others not to harm them. He expresses his intentions to treat them well and promises to ensure their safe return to their villages. One of the captives asks what they need to do in return for this, to which he replies that he simply seeks their human knowledge. He learns that the females were part of a business travel group ambushed by the older goblins, resulting in the men being killed and the women captured. After hearing their story, the women begin to cry, but Goburou doesn't want to involve himself in their tears and leaves them to it. The next day, he brings them breakfast, and the red-headed woman greets him with a smile. The women seem happier since the chief assured their safety, so they enjoy the food he prepared. They each have specific roles. The girl with short hair is both an appraiser and a smith. The two blonde sisters are cooks, the girl with glasses is a chemist, and the red-headed woman is a rookie warrior. Despite her current lack of strength, Goburou plans to train her. During the next day's training session, some of the older goblins try to challenge the new leader, so he asserts his authority by disciplining them. Goburou decides to prioritize training over hunting for now and wants everyone to adhere to the rules he's established. Remarkably, he accomplishes all this within 28 days. By day 31, Goburou sets a good example for the group by sparring with Gobkichi. The onlookers are amazed by their intensity, while Hopkin sulks in a corner. Later that night, while the chief sleeps, Hopkin and a few others sneak into the area where the human females are held. Before they can carry out their intentions, Goburou appears and confronts them, subduing them with his fists and sword. The women wake up to find Goburou has captured the intruders. He knocks out Hopkin and apologizes to the females for frightening them. The villagers gather as Goburou orders Gobkichi to drag the criminals outside. He instructs him to wake the others and bring them to witness the punishment he's about to administer as an example. In the rain, the clan watches as Goburou disciplines those who refuse to listen to him. Hopkin received the harshest punishment since he was the leader and the former boss. Goburou turns to the people and asks if they now understand the village rules. They all nod fearfully, clearly grasping the message. With that, the leader dismisses them. By the following day, Hopkin, who received the worst punishment, had passed away. Later, a few of them go hunting and encounter a trihorn horse, which proves challenging to take down. Despite the difficulty, they succeed and enjoy the horse meat. Consuming the flesh triggers a change in Goburou's system, granting him new abilities. He tests one of them, the triple thrust skill, on a nearby tree and is impressed by the result. This skill triples the impact of a single strike for extra damage. The next day, Gob has evolved into a hobgoblin, and she is pleased with the transformation. Meanwhile, Gobkichi has been appointed captain of the armored fighters. Gobmi leads the ranged unit, and Hubsato oversees the mobility-oriented lightly armored force. Gobai manages rear support, handling various tasks. Hobsea, the village soul mage, leads the magic force, serving as a one-woman army. With things going well, the chief decides to venture deeper into the woods to hunt prey not typically found in their region. He encounters a trihorn horse and uses a special magic attack to swiftly eliminate it, sparking his excitement to journey further north into the wilderness. A trail of blood reminds him of a warning from Old Man Gobji during his childhood. He cautioned the children never to approach or enter the northern woods because of the monstrous creature known as the Red Bear. Despite the warning, Goburou faces the creature head-on, choosing to confront it rather than flee. In another part of the village, the residents grow concerned as their leader has not returned. Gob asks around if anyone has seen him, but they all claim ignorance about his whereabouts. Meanwhile, in the forest, Goburou summons the magic spear he used earlier and hurls it at the bear. The bear sacrifices one of its hands to avoid the fatal blow, impressing Goburou with its instinct. The battle commences, and Goburou holds his own against the formidable opponent. He dodges numerous attacks and retaliates with his weapon. However, the bear's tough body proves challenging to penetrate. Goburou tries to ensnare it with his webs, but the bear breaks free and unleashes flames from its mouth. Despite the unexpected fire-breathing ability, Goburou manages to evade, sustaining some injuries. He quickly heals himself and resumes his offensive. This time, he surrounds himself with water to counteract the intense flames, creating an opportunity to thrust his weapon into the bear's mouth. For a moment, victory seems within reach, but the bear hurls him across the field. Despite the looming threat of defeat, Goburou refuses to yield, driven by his determination to defeat and consume the bear. With sheer willpower, he launches a final assault, ultimately vanquishing the creature. Although he sustains significant injuries in the process, he achieves his objective of defeating and consuming the bear. After consuming some of the meat, Goburou gains more abilities, but his injuries cause him to collapse. In a moment reminiscent of a solo level up in a game, the system notifies him that he has surpassed the level limits and offers him the chance to evolve into a rare ogre species, which he accepts. Upon awakening, he notices a change in his appearance and realizes he has transformed into an ogre. Upon returning to the village, the villagers mistake him for an attacking ogre due to his unfamiliar appearance. Despite his attempts to explain, he struggles to communicate with them. Goblin arrives at the scene and recognizes him as Goburou, surprising everyone. Despite her frustration at his prolonged absence, she inadvertently hurts herself when she tries to kick him. Once the misunderstanding is cleared up, the villagers are excited and impressed by Goburou's transformation into an ogre. Some time later, everyone is still amazed by Goburou's evolution, noticing how much bigger and stronger he appears. Goburou heads to check on the human women, but he's closely followed by Goblin and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him initially, but he manages to calm them down by reassuring them it's him. Goblin, however, seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see her axe, which she made for him, wrecked. But she reveals she's made her knife using a special spirit stone. Goburou praises her, but finds the other girls pinching him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duty, so Goburou explains he'll assign a few goblins to assist them. He's impressed that they've adapted to being around goblins so quickly, remarking they would make great wives. He jokingly wonders if they want to be his wives, and they playfully call him a sly dog. Goburou is pleased by their smiles, but once again, the redhead and Goblin seem more upset. Goburou then discovers that the alchemist has made poison. Initially, it was for self-defense, but now that there is a gob she can trust like Goburou, she has no use for it. Goburou picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he can instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Having spent all his time cheering up the girls, Goburou now feels exhausted in spirit. On day 36, Goburou realizes he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that even his lightest punches leave regular goblins in critical condition. Even Gabukichi's armor couldn't withstand them. As Goburou heals a nearly dead goblin, he wonders what's wrong with Gabukichi. Gabukichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Goburou can tell that something's amiss. Besides that, Goburou has started to notice that Hapsato and Gabumi have begun hunting together. The red-headed woman is training alone, and Gabai continues her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Goburou, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's made of slime, thanks to the fact that he once consumed a slime. Goburou wonders if Gabukichi will be okay, but Haps points out that it depends on how much effort Gabukichi puts in. The two argue as Goburou wishes Haps would give him back his book, and he reflects on how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabai panics as she finds a little creature in really bad shape. Goburou does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they introduce themselves to the creature, whom they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Latana, and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is said to be as high as 1 billion gold. Latana asks that they lend her their power, and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Goburou is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master, named Velvet, was a famous legendary magician, and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Latana explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken, shortening her lifespan. In the secret treasure room lie legendary class items that Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Latana reveals that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure rather than the human adventurers. They can have everything, so Goburou declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he reassures the frightened girls not to worry, as he won't blatantly harm the humans. His job is simply to get them to leave. but he warns that he might have to use force if they don't listen. They then proceed through the hole Gabai made, as it leads to the treasure room. Goburou decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he instructs the others to hide. He encounters the adventurers who are searching for the treasure room, but they mistake him for just another monster to defeat. They attack him, but are quickly surprised when he detects the presence of their invisible assassin. Goburou explains to them that this is someone's house, and what they are doing is robbery and murder. It's evident that they feel no guilt, so Goburou concludes that they are beyond redemption. The ignorant humans are shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Goburou mentions that fortunately for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen and attack him instead, but Goburou effortlessly dodges their attacks and once again urges them to leave. When they still refuse, Goburou assesses the situation. The humans have 3 mages in their backline wielding a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, Goburou observes that they rely too heavily on level enhancement to boost their fighting prowess. However, their lackluster fighting technique renders this ineffective, and Goburou easily overwhelms them. Suddenly, one mage rejoices, believing he has decapitated Goburou with his spell. Their shock is palpable when it becomes evident that the attack only infuriated Goburou. Though he has spared them until now, Gaburou's patience has worn thin. The humans tremble as they realize their level 3 magic spell was futile. Goburou declares an end to his leniency. Signaling the others to attack, they spring into action. Drawing his blade, Goburou admonishes the humans for not seizing the chance to leave earlier. Later, Goburou reveals that they dispatched the adventurers and consumed them, acquiring their traits, including those of an assassin, high wizard, and enchanter. But that's not all. Among the adventurers were high-level individuals with valuable loot, including a rare ring and an item storage bag filled with items, which Goburou devours as well. Among these is a cheat item box capable of holding an incredible number of items. They then proceed to the treasure room, where Latana expresses her gratitude. She explains that her master, Velvet, excelled with spirits, hence the abundance of spirit stones in the area. Wishing Goburou good health, she bids farewell and disappears. Touched by the moment, Goburou consumes the gem she left behind. Gab Kichai checks on Gabai, who reassures him she's fine. They share a moment of silence for Latana, after which Goburou decides they'll distribute the treasure among themselves. He's impressed by his item box's capacity, even after storing all the loot. Not wanting to leave Velvet's body behind, Goburou cremates it, revealing a gauntlet in the process. Upon trying it on, Goburou is astonished when it attaches itself to him, becoming his new arm. The others are equally amazed, and Goburou demonstrates its capability, finding it as functional as his original arm. Deciding to celebrate their successful mission, Goburou hosts a party. On day 38, he evaluates the loot with the blacksmith, discovering its remarkable rarity and power. The next day, Goburou equips the hobgoblins in their group with magical items. As for himself, Goburou selects the Vermilion Spear and 2 other legendary class artifacts, bringing his total to 3. Legendary class items rank just below Phantasm class, with the potential to grant immense power. Later, they gather ingredients for bear soup, and Goburou is pleased to witness everyone's growing strength. On day 40, Garbo organizes a tournament to select the hobgoblin leader, excluding himself, and establishes a mercenary group. The following day, Garbo sets out to encounter unfamiliar monsters. His first discovery is a golden spider, which drops valuable-looking items upon defeat. Consuming them enables him to create gold string, potentially for crafting accessories. Next, he encounters some red deer, but consuming one yields no new traits. Further exploration leads him to a grand tree, where he learns about dryads from Gobji. Dryads are exclusively female, and allure males from other intelligent species for sustenance. They are irresistibly beautiful, leading men to succumb to their charms. Goburou shares this information because he encounters one of these dryads, who admires his muscular physique and expresses a desire to converse. Goburou struggles against the allure of the dryad's charm, knowing that if he succumbs, she will use him for sustenance. He must remain vigilant and not let his guard down at any cost. Determined to resist, Goburou decides to utilize a new ability he has never used before, known as libido. After a strenuous 5 hours of consuming the dryad, Goburou acquires a trait called Dryad's Blessing. Despite still being alive, the dryad urges Goburou to return soon, but he casually brushes off her request, saying he'll consider it. Later, Goburou takes a bath in the lake and is suddenly surrounded by lizardmen. Asserting his invincibility for the day, Goburou effortlessly dispatches them and even defeats another monster. On day 42, Goburou discovers that 2 goblins possess a talent for magic. They are promptly integrated into Habs's platoon. However, Goburou is unsettled by Habs's cunning grin, which raises concerns for him. Some time later, Goburou senses someone approaching and discovers it's a group of noble elves. Humans are planning to attack them to steal their treasure, so the elves have come seeking help from the goblin. One elf in particular has a rude demeanor, but they're offering several months' worth of food for the goblin village in exchange for assistance. Goburou sees this as a favorable offer, but to their surprise, Goburou declines. He's not concerned about the potential conflict, he just wants the elves to be more genuine when seeking help. The rude elf threatens Goburou, but Goburou's intimidating glare strikes fear into their hearts. He warns them to signal their hidden archers to stand down. Despite their attempts to attack him, the elves realize they can't harm Goburou. The elf leader orders them to cease their assault, and Goburou explains that he's refusing their offer simply because he's not in the mood. However, he emphasizes that the goblins also inhabit this forest, and if the humans pose a threat, he wouldn't mind joining forces. Goburou impresses everyone by wielding his legendary weapon, although he doesn't fully comprehend its workings. When he stabs something with it, he can conjure an endless supply of spears that can reach up to 100 meters away. The elves, frightened by this display, flee in terror, and Goburou hopes they'll stay away for a while. On day 45, Goburou hunts down 20 gray slimes and consumes their cores, gaining various abilities such as fluid regeneration and auto-replication. He experiments with auto-replication, creating a miniature version of himself from his blood. This miniature Goburou shares his senses, leading Goburou to a clever idea. On day 46, he has the girls craft clothing lined with his blood, turning them into transmitters for emergency. On day 47, Goburou's scouts report that the elves have returned, but Goburou responds by unleashing a deafening roar from his cave, paralyzing the elves with fear. Emerging without a word, he captures them. The elf leader, wounded by Goburou's disrespect, demands retribution, but the other elves apologize for their leader's behavior. Goburou decides their leader is as good as dead but offers the rest a chance to survive. They'll face the goblins in a mock battle, and those who win will be spared. Goburou's decision is just, stating that survival requires the elves to fight with all their might. In the end, 6 out of the 23 elves are defeated, all of them men. However, Goburou privately admits to favoring women and subtly influencing the fights to spare them. After consuming the defeated elves, Goburou gains more abilities. He then informs the survivors that they are now prisoners, despite their hopes of being released. Goburou sees them as entertainment, but is reminded by Goburou that there are rules against mistreating prisoners. Although Goburou agrees to follow the rules, he still pleads out of desperation. Goburou proceeds to administer the final punishment to the elf leader. On day 48, Goburou reaches level 100, and on day 49, everyone is astonished to see him evolve into a special variant with a dark red color and iron heart skin. Blessings from the demigods of flame and war. Goburou points out that Goburou hasn't had a sparring partner since becoming an ogre, and Goburou feared he'd never catch up. Goburou has changed, so they engage in a match outside. Although Goburou still dominates, Goburou impressively holds his ground. Eventually, Goburou wins, realizing Goburou is indeed his rival. That night, exhausted Goburou encounters a mysterious figure, who apologizes and presents a gift as a token of appreciation. Goburou wakes up bewildered, unsure of what transpired. On day 51, Goburou wonders if Goburou's determination influenced others, as 4 new hobgoblins emerge. Among them, one is destined to be a mage, while another will become a cleric named Goburou, dedicated to healing. Additionally, Haps undergoes evolution, ascending into the Lord family as a half-spell lord. Goburou notices the markings on Haps's arms resemble his own. Haps, brimming with mana, wants to test her newfound strength outside. She unleashes a powerful fire attack, showing she can do at least 20 more of those. Despite being only a half-spell lord, she's expected to evolve into a full one soon. Goburou provides her with new gear to match her evolution, reassuring the envious Sato that she'll catch up eventually. Goburou notices evolutions happening more frequently and suspects that the goblins' environment during their early life influences their growth rate. While it's great to see everyone getting stronger, Goburou acknowledges that not everyone in the village is as fortunate. On day 52, the older goblins express their discontent. Despite their efforts to keep up, they feel left behind by the younger ones. They decide to leave the village, and Goburou surprises them by choosing not to punish them with death for their betrayal. Goburou clarifies that the departing goblins aren't stealing anything, so it's up to them if they want to leave. Surprisingly, Goburou gives them a parting gift, a magical knife made of mithril with an incredibly sharp edge. On day 53, Goburou discovers a human killed by an orc. Despite the grim situation, after consuming the human, Goburou gains an interesting ability called Monster Tamer. He hopes to use this ability to honor the deceased. That night, Goburou is delighted when the alchemist successfully brews booze. On day 54, Goburou announces the departure of the older generation of goblins and invites anyone else to join them, but no one else opts to leave. They celebrate with a toast. On day 55, Goburou works on producing earrings infused with his blood to serve as communication devices. By day 56, Goburou confirms that the earrings work perfectly and makes enough for everyone. On day 57, Goburou defeats a Trihorn, and Goburou successfully tests his monster tamer ability acquired from the human, making the Trihorn their first familiar. On the same day, Goburou gains a gray bear familiar, while the leader of a black wolf pack becomes a pet and bodyguard for the human women. On day 59, Goburou is astonished to see the red-headed girl, once weak, now transformed into a powerful warrior. During their meal, he is surprised when she reveals her new role as a shadow soldier. Goburou explains that she must consume monsters periodically to sustain herself, leading to remarkable growth. Later, Goburou learns of human attacks on goblins in the forest, signaling an impending war. On day 60, Goburou senses kobolds being pursued by an undetectable threat. Upon their arrival at the cave, they confront magically animated skeletons. Despite attempts by God Miai's archers, the skeletons are impervious to arrows. Gobukichi fears the situation will escalate. Goburou's search ability reveals a singular source behind the skeletons, likely their creator. Realizing that cutting the skeletons is ineffective, they resort to smashing them apart, which proves highly successful. Despite their efforts, the sheer numbers overwhelm them. Goburou decides to take matters into his own hands. As he counts down, Goburou charges through the skeleton army, finishing 3 seconds ahead of schedule. He destroys the monster generating the skeletons, gaining the ability to summon lower undead and high-tier equipment materialization, among others. Afterward, the kobolds express regret for their error. They inadvertently unearthed Velvet's treasury, previously invaded by the goblins, and awakened its guardian, the Greater Skeleton. Desperate to survive, they sought refuge in Goburou's cave, known for the terrifying black ogre residing within. These kobolds now pledge allegiance to Goburou, acknowledging his past conflicts with their kind. Despite this, they are deeply thankful for his intervention, recognizing the natural law of the strong prevailing over the weak. They relinquish control of their fate to Goburou, acknowledging their debt to him for saving their lives. Goburou accepts their gratitude and ensures their injuries are tended to by their cleric. Surveying the diverse assembly in his cave, Goburou is puzzled by how circumstances have brought together such an intriguing group. On the 61st day, Gabriel goes hunting with Gab Ketchai, and they spot 12 armed human soldiers. They trail them, and Gabriel uses his ability to listen in on their conversation. He discovers that the humans are planning to abduct the daughter of the Elvis chief, and one of the elves has betrayed their whereabouts. When the chief's daughter returns from a festival, the humans launch their attack, overpowering her guards and seizing her. Unable to stand by, Goburou intervenes, rescuing the girl and capturing the humans. By the 62nd day, he learns that the human army will mobilize in 20 days. After consuming all 12 humans, Goburou gains numerous abilities. When the elf girl wakes up, she's frightened by Goburou, especially noticing his wings, which are uncommon for elves. Despite his attempts to reassure her, she remains fearful, imagining the worst. Eventually, she calms down after drinking calming tea, though she becomes upset upon learning about her guards. Blaming Goburou for not intervening, he explains that the human-elf conflict isn't his concern and reveals the presence of a traitor among the elves. Despite his explanation, she cries inconsolably, prompting Goburou to advise her to rest before they return her home. Later that night, Goburou reminds the older man to keep his hands to himself. On the 63rd day, they escort the elf back to her village. She explains that wings are a feature unique to high elves, usually concealed within their body. However, due to her lack of experience, they occasionally emerge unintentionally. Upon reaching the elf village, Goburou senses 25 archers aiming mithril arrowheads at him. Fortunately, the chief's daughter intervenes, revealing that Goburou saved her life. Grateful, the chief expresses his thanks, although Goburou clarifies that he acted with the expectation of a reward. He sees this as an opportunity to understand the chief's values better. Goburou's reward is a family heirloom called a fail knot, a magical item. Despite the daughter's surprise, the chief considers it a small price for her safety. Pleased with the exchange, Goburou offers to provide intelligence on the human army's movements in return. With this gesture, the two groups establish friendly relations, and the elves equip the goblins with mithril gear. The chief inquires about their missing elite fighters, but Goburou feigns ignorance. As a token of appreciation, the chief gifts Goburou some fine liquor, prompting Goburou to pledge his assistance whenever needed. That night, Goburou savors the exquisite taste of the alcohol. On day 64, Goburou was astonished to discover that Godmi had evolved into a damper variant. Additionally, they gained 8 new hobgoblins. Godmi acquired new abilities, including the power to create and control large amounts of ice bestowed upon her by the god of ice. Her Evil Eyes ability now has the capability to charm enemies, causing them to fight amongst themselves. Gabai seemed to recognize her appearance, though he couldn't recall why. Gabai also underwent evolution and is now a half-Earth Lord, granting her the power to manipulate the ground and strengthen her body, along with the ability to use lightning magic to locate gems. Habsato evolved into a half-Bloody Lord, granting her the ability to control blood and shape it into weapons. Additionally, all the evolved goblins acquired tattoos in various locations, which they believe enhance their ability, prompting Goburou's curiosity to learn more about them. Due to their evolutions, Gabji decided to give them new names. They consulted a chart ranking races based on power, with ogres ranking 5th behind dampers and lords. Goburou anticipated that the elves would seek their aid in the upcoming battle against humans and distributed communication earrings to new allies, despite initial reluctance from the captive elf girls due to the taboo of decorating their ears. Goburou eventually persuaded them to wear the earrings and incorporated the new comrades into training sessions. He utilized his summon lower undead ability to summon skeletons for practical sparring, providing them with armor to enhance their quality. Although the elves struggled and lost most matches, Goburou was pleased with the progress and the growing trust within the group. On day 65, Goburou discovered that by using less mana, he could summon regular skeletons, zombies, and other undead creatures. Although he briefly wondered what they might taste like, he realized he couldn't consume them. However, they proved useful for practice and gaining experience. Unfortunately, they would be purified by daylight within seconds, limiting their use during the day. Goburou's group now boasted over 100 members. Recognizing the kobolds' disadvantaged position, he knew they would need to work harder than others. After a skirmish, Goburou expressed concern that Gofu might be consuming too much rotten meat, but she insisted it was her preferred diet. On day 66, Goburou instructed Earthy to seal the cave exit where the skeletons emerged. Additionally, he tasked the kobolds with hunting to acquire more wolf familiars. Surprisingly, they exceeded expectations, capturing 20 wolves. On their journey back, they encountered a formidable boar, which Earthy swiftly defeated. Later, the Forge Girl unveiled an upgraded axe that Goburou had damaged during a battle with a red bear. It had been enhanced with a blend of spirit stone, iron, and mithril alloy. Impressed, Goburou learned that the Smith Girl had ascended to become an elemental smith. On day 67, Goburou Kichai confesses to Goburou that he has feelings for Earthy. Despite being surprised, Goburou advises him and offers assistance, as Goburou Kichai is new to such matters. Goburou devises a plan for his friend, hoping for positive results by morning. That night, Goburou Kichai expresses his feelings to Earthy, and she appears receptive. The following morning, Goburou Kichai feels buoyant and stronger than ever during a sparring match with Goburou. Remarkably, he manages to land more attacks than usual, much to Goburou's satisfaction. It turns out that Earthy had discussed the matter with Damie the previous day, and together they orchestrated a favorable outcome. Goburou and Damie arranged the setting to facilitate Goburou Kichai's confession. Goburou found his friend to be unusually vigorous, and had to substitute himself with a black skeleton during their training bout. After their training session, Goburou's group went hunting and encountered numerous insect monsters previously unseen by Goburou. As a result, he gained additional ability, the most notable being one called Exoskeleton. Goburou was surprised to discover that using the exoskeleton ability made him resemble a superhero who can transform. This new exoskeleton is incredibly strong, with the ability to repair itself and absorb impacts. While Goburou finds it a bit flashy for his taste, Damie thinks it's cool. When Goburou tries to change back into his regular clothes, he finds himself in his birthday suit instead. It turns out that his normal clothes were used to create the exoskeleton. He's disappointed because he really liked his outfit, especially since it was made from the red bear's pelt. Additionally, Goburou realizes that this exoskeleton ability allows him to have 5 different forms. Since one form was already used with the red bear, he decides to register 4 others. He decides he wants forms for air and sea battles, so he registers one form from the insect, allowing him to sprout wings and fly. However, controlling it proves to be quite challenging, so he knows he needs practice. On day 69, during heavy rain, the redhead suggests sparring with Goburou. She has been making steady progress, and has been seeking more training lately. Goburou reflects on how she used to seem like a puppy but now resembles a grown Doberman. Meanwhile, the Smith Girl has been meeting regularly with the elves to brainstorm ideas for new weapons. She is currently working on developing a repeating crossbow, and tests have been successful. Goburou has asked her to start manufacturing them. He also provided her with more materials to make a new weapon for him. The chef sisters have been appointed as head chefs and have been tasked with recreating dishes from Goburou's past life, such as potato chips. After that, Goburou had a meeting with the alchemist about manufacturing magical items. She reveals an item she created from the bones of the black skeleton, a bone nail that can freeze whoever it strikes in place. The other girls catch Goburou hugging the alchemist, but he doesn't explain what happens next. On day 70, a group of elves arrives representing the chief elf. As they pass by their former comrades, Goburou's earrings cast a disguise effect, making them appear as dark elves. The elf messenger reveals that the humans are advancing, and the elves alone can't handle them, seeking Goburou's aid. The chief elf is willing to pay any price to completely eliminate the enemy. However, the contract will be void if Goburou retreats. Accepting the job, Goburou stipulates that they'll do it on his terms. He instructs the messenger to give the elf chief a bracelet for communication. Recognizing the value of information, Goburou utilizes his blood minis spread throughout the woods. Gathering everyone, he announces the transition to a mercenary company. They've become a professional fighting force, and everyone is on board. Deciding on the name Parabellum Mercenary Company, Goburou urges everyone to prepare for battle. It's time for their first mission, and they all chant Parabellum in unison. On the 71st day, Goburou's Parabellum Company embarks on their inaugural mission. The company consists of 36 members, but with Spellsay's sorcery, their familiars can also join them, bringing the total number to 73. They set out early in the morning, guided by intel provided by one of Goburou's informants. Encountering a barrier surrounding the human army base, Goburou utilizes an attribute on his silver arm to dismantle it. With the barrier down, Earthy employs her earth manipulation abilities to block off any potential escape routes for the human. Damie and Spelsay then lead a coordinated magical assault, while Goburou summons a legion of skeletons and adds spears to the mix. Despite their efforts, Goburou is surprised to find that the humans are not easily defeated. A female knight leads their defense, prompting Goburou to introduce himself with a resounding roar. Recognizing that the Black Ogre controls the undead, the knight rallies her forces to strike him down together. The human mage initiates the attack, impressing Goburou as the knight enhances her speed. He acknowledges her astute assessment of the situation, admiring the mana she envelops herself in. Even her tactic to aim for his heart earns his praise. However, despite her efforts, Goburou easily repels her. Expressing his admiration for her resilience, Goburou declares that they will all be spared and taken as prisoners. The knight adamantly refuses, insisting that Goburou must prove his strength if he desires her surrender. She challenges him, stating that if she is defeated, he may do as he pleases. Goburou instructs his group to spare the Lady Knight, the Sorcerer, the Priestess, and the Flaming Swordswoman, intending to capture them alive. However, he orders the elimination and consumption of the rest of the enemies. What follows is described by Goburou as a one-sided massacre. Damie's enchanted eyes cause chaos among the human soldiers, while Augury Kichai overwhelms others. Blood Sato utilizes her ability to weaponize blood, supported by Ruthy's follow-up ability. Together, they emerge victorious without suffering any losses. Despite the Lady Knight managing to reach Goburou once, her attacks hardly faze him, though her determination impresses him. As the human mage prepares a potent attack, Spelsay recognizes it as a level 5 spell and fears for Goburou's safety. The mage, sacrificing herself, launches the attack, apologizing for its inevitability. However, Goburou declares victory, refusing to let the Lady Knight perish. To everyone's amazement, Goburou skillfully conjures a magical shield, combining 3rd level demise magic, a vacuum shield from his silver arm, and other abilities. Goburou successfully counters the dragon's spell attack, securing a decisive victory for his group. He emphasizes the significance of capturing powerful fighters as prisoners. Following their triumph, Goburou indulges in a feast, acquiring numerous new abilities in the process. The elves celebrate their victory. Subsequently, Goburou visits the prisoners, finding them in poor condition. On day 72, he explains that with the earrings in place, the humans couldn't deceive them, allowing them to gather valuable information. The elder elf, offering alcohol as payment, receives this information eagerly. Using an item provided by Goburou, they transmit the gathered intelligence, which includes details about hidden ambush routes planned by the humans. Goburou's group strategically lays traps along these routes, preparing for the impending attack. The human forces, comprising 500 fully armored knights and 100 wizards, plan to overwhelm the elves from multiple directions. Recognizing the challenge of facing them head-on, Goburou and his group view it as mere target practice. They initiate the attack, strategically cutting off escape routes and employing tactics like dropping boulders to reduce the enemy's numbers. Through a combination of pit traps and arrow assaults, they swiftly diminish the enemy's forces from 500 knights to fewer than 100, demonstrating their tactical superiority. Goburou is impressed when the knight commander orders his troops to construct a makeshift wall, leading to a stalemate in the battle. In response, Goburou sends Augur Kichai to engage the commander in combat. Despite the humans' resistance, Goburou ensures that his warriors overwhelm the knights, leaving no room for escape. However, Goburou is uncertain whether Augur Kichai can control himself during the fight. As Augur Kichai confronts the commander, his ferocity becomes evident, surprising even the commander. Goburou acknowledges the commander's resilience, but ultimately, Augur Kichai emerges victorious. Following their customary feast, Goburou gains new ability, while Augur Kichai remarks on the commander's resemblance to Goburou, a comparison Goburou dismisses. Suddenly, Dami expresses her desire to bear Goburou's child, surprising everyone. On day 74, the captured knights find their situation humiliating, but their commander reassures them, highlighting the comforts of food and shelter. The knights, considering themselves nobles, find the ordeal disgraceful, particularly due to their commoner-born commander's lack of understanding. Subsequently, Goburou learns from the commander the reason behind the human attack on the elves, a princess's fatal illness, prompting her betrothed king to seek a cure. Upon discovering the elves' sacred medicine, crafted with the forest demigod's blessing, the humans' greed sparks the conflict. Later, during a mining session, Earthy and the others are startled by an unexpected event. Amid speculation of an attack, they discover the creation of a hot spring, much to everyone's surprise. Excitedly, Goburou informs everyone about the benefits of the newly discovered hot spring. It enhances their healing ability, alleviates any status ailments, and contributes to healthier skin. Delighted by these advantages, everyone indulges in the rejuvenating bath, with Goburou acknowledging Earthy for uncovering it. On day 75, Goburou devises a new training regimen, utilizing the human prisoners. The plan involves honing leadership skills by orchestrating simulated battles with real soldiers. Participants give commands to their troops, appropriately attired for battle, aiming to defeat the opposing group's leader. Goburou assumes the role of a neutral judge, observing from the sidelines. During the exercises, Spelsay and Dami demonstrate strong leadership, effectively directing their respective units. However, Augur Kichai and Blood Sato struggle to secure victory. Observing this, the human spectators are perplexed by the Goblin's military drills. Expressing his frustration, the commander expresses his desire for a direct confrontation with Goburou instead of engaging in mock battles. Impressed by the commander's courage and determination, Goburou gains respect for him, referring to him as the Steel Knight. To level the playing field, Goburou infuses the commander with mana, signaling his willingness to engage in combat. Releasing a portion of his power, Goburou engages in battle, swiftly overpowering the commander, who realizes he never stood a chance against Goburou's might. Goburou heals the Steel Knight, inspiring Augur Kichai to also challenge him to a fight. Observing their battle, Goburou senses that Augur Kichai is motivated by the Steel Knight's resolve. Later, the Steel Knight explains that he hails from a land abundant with demi-humans, facilitating his communication with them. Impressed by the diverse races gathered by Goburou, the Steel Knight wonders if Goburou's presence is divinely ordained. He relinquishes his knighthood, pledging his allegiance to Goburou. Accepting the offer, Goburou frees him from captivity and entrusts him with tasks suited to his talents. Goburou mentors the redhead, tasking him with teaching unique human combat skills. Subsequently, the elf elder agrees to care for the wounded humans. Inquiring about the sought-after secret medicine, Goburou learns that it's the same medicine the elder previously entrusted to him. This medicine is highly revered for its unparalleled healing property, capable of curing various ailments. Goburou is astounded by the elder's generosity, who explains that their laws permit sharing it with Goburou, the savior of his daughter. Upon consuming the medicine, Goburou experiences an unusual sensation and gains numerous extraordinary healing abilities. To demonstrate, Goburou offers a drop of his blood to an injured human, who is astonished to find his injuries healed and his back pain alleviated. Similarly surprised, Goburou contemplates the extent of his newfound ability, realizing he has entered uncharted territory. Healing someone with just a drop of blood prompts him to speculate on the magnitude of his powers and their potential implications. The human army's camp was peaceful. Guards strolled while some savored coffee. Suddenly, a spear from beyond the camp strikes a knight, puncturing his torso and shattering his coffee cup. Shock and confusion grip the others as more spears emerge, claiming more lives. This signals an attack as ogres and hobgoblins charge in. 20 minutes later, Goburou stands amidst a heap of corpses, disintegrating them with a slimy substance. The next day, Goburou walks through the elven camp, accompanied by humans, raising suspicions. In a nearby treehouse, a red-haired warrior and a lady knight question Goburou's presence. Goburou reassures them of the kindness of the elven leader, who arrives shortly with food and drinks. Over dinner, they ponder their next move. Despite the human army's predicament, the elven leader proposes deploying their best unit for the next attack. aiming to swiftly end the conflict. Goburou agrees to the plan and sets off back to their own village. Along the journey, the Lady Knight approaches Goburou with a request. Though devoted to him, she also feels duty-bound as a human noble. Therefore, she implores Goburou to send the elf's medicine to the kingdom, hoping to cure their princess's debilitating illness. Goburou realizes this could put the kingdom in their debt if he agrees. However, there's a religious complication. Humans worship the 5 great grand gods, while Goburou has received blessings from Demise and Origin God. Delivering the medicine might spark conflict. Despite this, Goburou promises the Lady Knight he will consider her request. The next day, day 83, the human guards remain vigilant around their camp, numbering around 2,000. In contrast, Goburou's forces, combined with the elves, total only about 650 people. Additionally, Goburou overhears further intelligence. Using his blood clones, he discovers that a group called Rugaldorden has joined the army. Through his human soldiers, Goburou learns that the 8 braves of Rugaldorden are the strongest warriors, blessed by God. Though formidable individually, they also bolster their allies' strength. Nonetheless, Goburou remains unfazed, already contemplating the taste of these renowned heroes. In the present moment, Goburou utilizes his abilities to summon skeleton soldiers. Donbai questions the wisdom of this action as dawn approaches, but Goburou assures her that he has altered the skeletons to adapt to the sunlight. He devises a strategy to send his skeletons to the center while instructing Gobukichi to deal with any survivors. From the shadows of the forest, Goburou's skeletons charge toward the human guards, initiating a fierce battle between the two forces. Swords clash as humans fend off the relentless onslaught of skeletons. As dawn breaks, sunlight filters through the tree, illuminating the battlefield and causing the skeletons to fade away. The humans rejoice at their apparent victory, but the fight is far from over. Goburou had concealed his clones in a slime form within the skeletons, protecting them from the sun's rays. The knights struggle as they are gradually overwhelmed, and Goburou himself enters the fray, repelling attackers with his magic. His plan to disrupt the enemy's chain of command proves successful. Meanwhile, in a nearby section of the forest, a boy with green hair grumbles about being dragged into the war. His 2 guardian knights apologize but stress the importance of his hero powers in securing victory. As they journey, they stumble upon Goburou's battle with the knights, capturing the green-haired boy's interest as he witnesses Goburou's magical prowess. Meanwhile, the knights are bewildered by the astonishing sight unfolding before them. They watch as blood and water are absorbed into Goburou's hand, culminating in a sudden explosion that unleashes a deadly whirlpool, claiming the lives of all the soldiers. After the chaos subsides, Goburou approaches a nearby deceased mount and begins to feast. His meal is interrupted by the arrival of a green-haired boy, who boldly asks if they can spar next. Recognizing the boy's appearance, Goburou identifies him as Filippo, known as the Bone Bug Brave. While Filippo is pleased to be recognized, he dislikes the nickname given to him by Goburou. His eyes undergo a transformation, revealing compound eyes as evidence of a blessing from the enchantress god. Curious, Filippo questions Goburou about his role in annihilating the armies sent by the human kingdom. Expressing frustration, he stomps the ground, lamenting that Goburou's actions disrupt even his holiday plans. Despite his childish demeanor, Goburou senses the immense power emanating from Filippo, remaining wary. Filippo suggests that Goburou must also be blessed by a god and probes him about the deity's identity. When Goburou remains silent, Filippo produces vials containing bugs known as undergone, created through divine blessing and necromancy. Releasing the bugs, Filippo demonstrates their ability to reanimate corpses, noting that these revived beings are immune to the sun's effect, distinguishing them from typical zombies. Before the battle commences, Filippo engages Goburou in a discussion about the distinction between a brave and a hero. He explains that while a hero possesses remarkable individual strength, they can only bolster a maximum of 10 allies. In contrast, a brave may not be as powerful individually, but they can enhance up to 100 allies. Demonstrating his point, Filippo raises his hand, emitting a violet aura. Suddenly, the bugs under Filippo's control explode, transforming into various human-sized insects. Swarming around Goburou, the enemies launch their assault. Goburou effortlessly dispatches the bugs, much to Filippo's amusement, who marvels at Goburou's skill in annihilating his creations. Recognizing Goburou as a formidable opponent, Filippo shifts his approach, taking control of his bugs directly to maximize their effectiveness against Goburou. He begins by ensnaring Goburou's arms with webs and orchestrating a multi-directional attack from the other bugs. Despite the onslaught, Goburou skillfully defeats them all, leaving Filippo astonished by his prowess. Nevertheless, Filippo remains confident in his eventual victory. He gestures towards the ground, unleashing a mysterious spell that triggers seismic tremors, signaling a new phase in the battle. However, Goburou, who hasn't given up yet, attempts to attack the bug boy from behind. However, the bug boy swiftly dodges his attack, utilizing his compound eyes, akin to houseflies, which grant him a 360-degree view of his surroundings. Undeterred, Goburou persists in his relentless assault on the bug boy, who remains fixated on the fact that this persistent ogre survived the centipede's poison. He demands an explanation from Goburou, but Goburou refuses, unwilling to divulge his secrets to his adversary. With the centipede out of the picture, the bug boy decides to unleash another one of his pets, producing a vial containing a caterpillar he claims to be as dangerous as his previous pet. Before deploying his secret weapon, however, the bug boy pauses the fight, expressing his curiosity about Goburou, intrigued by the challenge he presents. Nevertheless, Goburou is unwilling to reveal himself to outsiders at this stage, rejecting the bug boy's inquiry once more, much to the bug boy's disappointment. Nonetheless, the bug boy introduces himself as Filippo Bird La Cara, boasting of being the 7th strongest fighter in the country. Unperturbed by the bug boy's status, Goburou silences him with a lightning spell, shattering his secret vial. He continues his barrage of lightning spells, closing the distance between them enough to land a blow on the bug boy's forehead. Suddenly, numerous tentacular pincers emerge from the bug boy's body, halting Goburou's assault. Revealing these pincers as his second secret technique, the bug boy undergoes a monstrous transformation himself. This excites Goburou, as he envisions the immense strength he could gain by consuming the bug boy, Filippo. With his curiosity piqued to its peak, he unleashes more of his destructive powers. Filippo is taken aback by Goburou's continued strength, even without undergoing the supposed epic awakening. Unfamiliar with the concept of epic awakening, Goburou seeks to learn more. However, before he can question Filippo further, he must bring their fight to an end. Transforming his exoskeleton to match Filippo's, Goburou launches a powerful attack, swiftly incapacitating him with a single blow. Meanwhile, Gobukichi decimates the opposing army, preparing to reunite with Goburou's team. Realizing his inability to defeat the enigmatic ogre, Filippo resorts to using his bug armor as a diversion, fleeing the battlefield with remarkable speed. As the battle draws to a close, Goburou dispatches his clones to deliver a message to the human commander. He no longer wishes to prolong the war. Additionally, he offers the commander the rare healing medicine initially sought to aid their princess. Accepting Goburou's terms, the commander orders his army to return to their kingdom. In the aftermath of the conflict, Goburou's team tends to the wounded and grants safe passage to the remaining human soldiers as the war concludes. After attending to all other matters, Goburou holds a solemn funeral to honor the 30 fallen comrades, vowing to grow stronger to prevent further loss of life among his allies. This brings an end to our episode. We're nearing 20,000 subscribers. Help us hit that milestone by subscribing to our channel.